ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, so we are continuing with Sri Sri Prapanna-jivanamritam, and yesterday we finished this verse advising us to discuss to regularly discuss the subject of surrender, sharanagati, so that the desire to surrender, to attempt to surrender, may awaken within us. We're starting from ground zero.
Okay.
We're starting from ground zero. So, let us first try to develop some real appreciation and hankering and desire for that real thing. And we can do that just by discussing it. And so that's what we're doing by the grace of our Param Gurudev. Okay, so we are in verse 43. Api tad anukulyadi sankalpad yangalakshana tad anushilaniyatvam uchyatehi mahajanai. Furthermore, since the constituent parts of surrender, based on acceptance of the favorable and rejection of the unfavorable, have been referred to by authorities and cited in the scriptures, the great devotees of the Lord teach us the necessity of studying and culturing the art of surrender. It is a science. What will help us and what will take us away. It is a science like anything else. And so we are studying the science of sharanagati. What is the nature of real sharanagati and how can we approach that ourselves? Bhavarti pidyamano va bhakti matra bilashyapi vaimukya bhajamano nya gatista charanam brajet. One who is severely afflicted by fear of living in the material world, or one who, despite having an aspiration for the Lord's service, is nonetheless bound with adversity, such persons, finding no alternative, surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is severely afflicted by fear of living in the material world, or one who, despite having an aspiration for the Lord's service, is nonetheless bound with adversity, such persons, finding no alternative, surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ashayantadahitye vanyashaya visarjane ananyagati vedastu dvivida parikirtita. The state of finding no other alternative occurs in two ways: in the event of having no other shelter, or in the event of abandoning one's existing shelter. The state of finding no other alternative occurs in two ways: in the event of having no other shelter, or in the event of abandoning one's existing shelter. So, it's also implicated here that you cannot have both at the same time. Or Srila Saraswati Thakur put it, having your feet on two boats. Two boats side by side, one foot here, it's not going to work. They're going to go apart and you have to go one side or the other. So we have to come to that point if we want to substantially make progress. We have to come to that point of finding there's nothing else but this. This is my only shelter. Krishna pada aika, to take exclusive shelter. And so that may happen differently for different persons. One may be put into that situation of where I have no choice, but to pray to the Lord. I have nothing else. There's nothing else for me. Everything's been taken away from me. One's been put in such a position where they're forced to go deeper and to realize this is the only thing of value. And I have nowhere, nothing else anyway. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna expresses 4 kinds of people they surrender. They approach me, and one of them is who is distressed, who's suffering, So that can be a very merciful situation to find oneself in. So Kunti Devi, she's praying, right? Vipada Shantuya, that verse, Vipada Shantuya Shashvat. I can't remember that verse, but she's praying for these difficulties to come, because in those difficulties, the Lord is very near to us. We cannot but seek the shelter of the Lord. So that is one scenario, and then the other is that one may simply realize, whatever so-called shelter I have, it is meaningless. There's nothing really here. An extreme example of that is King Bharat, Maharaj Bharat. That he had everything. He was this great ruler. Had so much at his disposal, wealth and sense enjoyment, power, so on and so forth. But he abandoned everything to live a life of simplicity, simply, in remembrance of the Lord. And then another point we can also add is that, there's actually no question of there being any other shelter. Even the illusion, even to think, oh, I'm giving something up, I'm abandoning some other shelter, that's actually a lower understanding, because it's not that was a shelter anyway in the first place. Like I'm renouncing everything. It was never yours in the first place. That's an illusion, actually. You're identifying with that ego of being a master, being a possessor of something. So of course that's one level of faith, and that's a step along the path. But a higher level is, actually there's no question of me giving anything up or leaving anything, because I never had anything in the first place. That was just the illusion that I was in. There's very beautiful prayer, one of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples, Jagabandhu Bhakti Ranjam. He's on our calendar, our Vaishnava calendar. His disappearance day is noted there. I think it's in December, maybe. But he was very wealthy, and he gave the money for the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math, which was became like the flagship Math of the Gaudiya Math, very important center amongst the 64 missions that were established. And this one disciple, he donated, he paid for it all. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he expressed great appreciation for that. No doubt, not only for the money, but in fact, that's also an interesting story, because the way that project started was Srila Saraswati Thakur told his disciples to go into Calcutta and collect for this temple. And so they started that, but then this Jagabandhu, he said, "Oh no, I'll cover everything." And when the disciples told this to Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, first he expressed some disappointment, because he said, "That's not actually what I wanted. I wanted that every person in Calcutta will give 1 penny, 1 paisa towards this. Then they will all be benefited by that. That's more meaningful to me." He made that express, because that's giving sukriti to all these persons. When we're collecting like that, actually we're distributing something. They may think they're giving, but we're actually distributing sukriti to these persons who have the fortune to give something. So anyhow, Srila Saraswati Thakur made that expression. But of course, on another level, he was very appreciative of this, sentiment of his disciple, to cover this huge expense. And so and so it wasn't only the money that he appreciated, but it was his devotional mood and his mood of surrender. And Saraswati Thakur expressed great appreciation for that, I believe he wrote something that was published, like glorifying his disciple. And then this Jagabandhu, we can find it. Tyagi Maharaj translated it and published, and Jagabandhu wrote these beautiful verses expressing the shame, like I have simply given you what is yours. Like you're praising me for having given something, but actually you're just shaming me because I have nothing to. I'm yours. I'm your property. Whatever is mine is yours. And so I'm simply giving you what is your own. There's no question of me being able to give you anything. When there's no space for any ego, any false ego for the Vaishnava. There's no corner, there's no space. They see everything, as being the property of Guru and Gauranga. Srila Saraswati Thakur made that expression. All fame is for Guru. All money is for Narayan, and all sense pleasure, that is for Krishna. And there was one person who asked Srila Saraswati Thakur, like, well, what's left? What's my position? He said, you have no position. Really, if we're living in that consciousness, like, nothing belongs to us. Everything's taken there, and we're trying to live on prasad. We're living on grace and what they may extend to us as their mercy, and whatever we're utilizing in our daily life, it's their prasadam. It belongs to them, or maybe it's coming to us, and we're offering it to them. We're giving it what pratishta, what fame is coming. We're sending it directly. Gurudev made this really nice expression that I have to make myself into a pratishta rocket. And whatever pratishta, whatever fame is coming to me, I have to send that up to my guru. So I'm making myself into this rocket. But we have to do that, otherwise we're in a very dangerous position, actually, especially with pratishta. That is the most subtle, is the most difficult. Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes it as the most difficult enemy to cross. It can attack us in very subtle, very unexpected, very underground ways. To give up money, to give up sense enjoyment, that is one thing. And at least if we can't give them up, we recognize that struggle. It's easy to, denounce our attachment for these things. That, I'm so attached to money or women or men or whatever. It's easy to recognize that and to reject it. But pride, then pride will come because we've done that, very difficult. And it can be very, very subtle. It's a very subtle thing. And it can come in any way. Srila Gurudev, he made one very nice expression about ahankar, the false ego, how it is, he said, it is an ever-expanding world. It can come at you from any direction. We can go and do the most humble seva, cleaning the toilet, or then we have some pride. Oh, I'm the most humble. I'm doing the most lowly seva. And so many, or we can be the one at the top, and then we have pratishta about that. It can come from any corner, from any direction. Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada made that famous expression when somebody said, "Oh, I'm the most fallen," and he said, "You're not the most anything." There's also some ego there. I'm the most fallen. It's very, very subtle, very difficult enemy to cross. The state of finding no other alternative occurs in two ways. In the event of having no other shelter, or in the event of abandoning one's existing shelter. And this, of course, may take place on a subtle or a gross level, or both. And as we mentioned yesterday, it may just be an internal adjustment, to withdraw the dependency that we may have on particular entities in our lives. Manovat kai beda cha chivida sharanagati tasam sarvanga sampana shigram purna fal prada nunadik yena chaita sam tadatamyam fale picha. One surrenders by thought, word, and deed. Complete surrender in all these aspects promptly affords full success. Otherwise, the fruit attained will be proportionate to the degree of one's surrender. Apurva phalatvam, the unprecedented, gracious reward of surrender. Vinasha sarva dukani nija madhurya varshanam karoti bhagavan bhakte sharanagata palaka. Being most affectionate toward his surrendered souls, the Supreme Lord totally dispels their unhappiness, graciously filling their hearts with his sweet absolute presence. Apyasidam tadiyatram vina cha sharanagatam itya purva phalatvam hi tasya shamsanti pandita. Without unconditional surrender, sharanagati, one cannot conceive of oneself as belonging to him. And this is why the learned sing par excellence the glories of surrender's ability to yield her unprecedented, gracious fruit. Atava bahubir eter uktibi kim prayojanam sarva siddhir bhave eva govinda charanashrayat. Otherwise, what would have been the need for so abundantly singing her praises? Only by unconditional surrender unto the lotus feet of Govinda is all perfection attained. Nothing remains to be attained. Sri Sanatan-jivadi mahajana samahritam apicha nicha samspishtam piyusham piyatam buddha. Even though touched by one as lowly as me, please, O learned devotees, drink this nectar gathered by the great souls, headed by Srila Sanatan and Sri Jiva. Iti Sri Prapanna-jivanamrtam upakramamritam nama pratamo jaya. Thus ends the first chapter, prelude to approaching nectar and life nectar of the surrendered souls, positive and progressive immortality. Okay, and we can go on to chapter 2. And so here, Param Guru Maharaj, he is giving citations from established scriptures. It's like establishing the dignity of this subject matter. Not that this is some whimsical, fanciful, sentimental type thing. What's coming from the hearts of it's how some may see it, what's coming from the hearts of sentimental, persons. But this is, the way we see it, the real understanding is that scripture is simply a record of what's coming from the hearts of the saints, right? So it's non-different, and what comes in a more immediate way from the heart of a saint, that is actually more valuable than what's recorded in a scripture at a particular time and place. That can be something more living and more immediate, more pertinent. But, the stereotyped view is, what's written down in the Shastra, that's the thing, right? So here, Param Guru Maharaj is starting out before he goes to Bhaktavachanamritam, the expressions of the devotees, which are collected from many different various places. First, what has already been presented in authorized scriptures. First, he's presenting that. Then people will, okay, I can pay attention to this. This is a serious text. So he's starting out like that. Shishastra Vachanamritam, verses that are on, showing the significance of Sharanagati. Shishastra Vachanamritam, the nectar of scriptural word. Shruti Smrityadi Shastreshu Prapatiryan Nirupyate Taduktam Dutya. And Srila Gurudev, as I recall, he follows a similar method in he has an introduction that he wrote to Srila Sridhar Maharaj's commentary on Sharanagati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sharanagati. Srila Sridhar Maharaj wrote his commentary on that, right? And then Gurudev, when he published it, because Gurudev was the person who published that after he joined the Math, I think within a few years. And then, so when Gurudev published it, then he also wrote his own introduction, and as a part of his introduction, he included a long list of different verses, especially from the authorized, accepted, well-known scriptures, on the subject matter of Sharanagati, to show the authenticity and the dignity of this subject matter, not some whimsical, sentimental thing. Shruti Smrityadi Shastreshu Prapatiryan Nirupyate Taduttam Dvitiyadhyaye Shishastra Vachanamrite. This second chapter, Shishastra Vachanamritam, the nectar of scriptural word, describes surrender as corroborated in the revealed scriptures headed by the Vedas, Shruti, and the religious codes, the Smriti. Prapati Shruto. Surrender is firmly established by the Vedas. And then this verse, I'm not sure where it's from, some abbreviated citation, the reference, abbreviated reference.
The Brahma-samhita.
Oh yeah, it is. It's not Brahma-samhita, it's from a commentary, Tika on Brahma-samhita. I don't think it's directly from Brahma-samhita. It says the Tika. Yo Brahmanam vidadati purvam yo Brahma vidyam tasmai ga palati sma Krishna tam hi devam atmavritti prakasham mumukshur vai sharanam amum rajet. In the beginning of creation, he who created the universal creator, Brahma, and then imparted to Brahma knowledge of Brahman, the Absolute. He is the self-same Lord Krishna who tends the cows, or nourishes the Vedas. Ga means both cows and Vedas. Those desirous of liberation should surrender unto that Lord, who reveals the innate function of the soul. This verse is very nice. What is his position? He's the Supreme Lord. He has empowered the creator of this world, Brahma, who has such a high position, within the Vedic culture. But he is that same Krishna. He takes care of the cows. Very sweet, very wonderful conception of the Absolute. So those desirous of liberation should surrender unto that Lord who reveals the innate function of the soul. Tadatmya yatartyam smito. The cause of the tangible reality of surrender is expounded in the standard codes of religion. Ahankratir ma karasyan na karastan nishedaka tasmat tu namasakshetri swatantriyam pratisidyate Bhagavat pada tanto so tadaya tatma jivana tasmat sva samartya vidim tyajat sarvam asheshata. The syllable ma means self-asserting ego, the misconception of considering oneself to be a doer. The syllable na indicates its prevention. Thus, the act of offering obeisances, namaha, nullifies the offerer's independence. The soul is naturally subordinate to the Almighty, his intrinsic nature and innate function being servitude to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all actions performed thinking, I am the doer, should be utterly abandoned. So this is a very, it's a significant point. This, what is it, so many things we do without thinking, So this act of offering obeisances, what is the real significance of that, That is being very nicely explained here. That one's false ego, one's ahankar is being negated. And we are offering ourselves as subordinate to the Lord and the superior Vaishnavas. And also, it's explained by our gurus, further that we are placing our head, which is the highest point, representing the highest point of our realization. We are placing that at the lowest points of the Lord and the superior, beings and the superior Vaishnavas. So, what is the maximum, of our realization, understanding, attainment? Can't reach the lowest point of you. So, I am offering myself, as subordinate to you and to be used by you and your existing in your higher plane of realization. So all of these things are very significant. Ahankara prapati. The only obstacle to surrender is self-asserting ego. And now this verse looks like it's in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Ahankar, and this verse Srila Gurudev liked so much. Ahankara nivrittanam keshavo nahi durga. Ahankara yutanam hi madhya parvata rasayam. The Supreme Lord Keshava remains in the company of persons who are free from a mundane conception of life. But there appears to be a great mountain range between the self-asserting egotists and the Lord. So, ahankar nivrittanam, those who are free from that ahankar, keshavo nahi durga. The Lord, he is not far. He is very close to them. But ahankar yutanam hi madhya parvata rasi. But for those who have ahankar, it is as if there is a great mountain range between them and the Lord. Lord is right here. The Lord is not far from us. It is just, it is that great wall of ego that is separating us. No, it's like you imagine you have like a neighbor, but you have some really thick concrete wall, and so you're actually right next to it because you have this really thick, soundproofed and so on and so forth wall. Then you have no knowledge of each other's existence, but you're actually right next door to each other. So in the same way, the Lord, as Gurudev he said, there's not 1 inch of space between us and Krishna. He's right here. He's with us. But it's simply that ahankar, that false conception of self that creates this huge distance. Once that is removed, then we will see, what is that verse? Kam hridaya nashanti sarvamaya hridistate Vidyate hridayagrantis chidyante sarva samsha kiyante chashakarmani mayijishte kilatman. When those covers are removed, when those knots are cut, then we will see Krishna's everywhere. Krishna is everything. I am for Krishna, Krishna is for me. There's nothing else. It is simply that ahankar that is separating us. And Srila Gurudev, oh, now the sinner is here. Dandavat. So Srila Gurudev, he likes this verse very much. And there's one very nice article that was made, demolishing the pillars of ego. Maybe it's in that Benedictine tree. Maybe it's in there, demolishing the pillars of ego. It's based on this verse. And Srila Gurudev also, he in relation to this idea, he made that expression about how Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev would say, he blasted a tunnel through the mountain of Western ego. They're drawing upon this idea of the mountain of ego. So he say, Swami Maharaj, he blasted a tunnel through the mountain of Western ego. And now I'm coming through that very easily. So it's really an extraordinary thing. That wealth is right here, but it is that cover of ahankar that is separating us. And it's right here. We don't need to go anywhere. It's right here. It is living within us. But at the same time, it is not easy. It is a very peculiar situation that we are in. Very far, but very close at the same time. Tadare tadvantike is mentioned in I think one of the Upanishads or Vedanta Sutras. Tadare tadvantike. He is very far, but he is also very near. It's just a question of our own consciousness and identification. So this is very, very nice verse. Okay. Next verse, this is from Bhagavatam. Advaya jnanam anashitanam eva jagadarshanam. Persons who do not take shelter of the one without a second, the Supreme Lord, simply loiter in the world of birth and death. Persons who do not take shelter of the one without a second, the Supreme Lord, simply loiter in the world of birth and death. And now this is the verse from Bhagavatam. Yavat pritaktam idam atma indriyarta maya balam bhagavato jana isha pashyad tavanna samshritiraso pratisankrameta yartapi dukkha nivaham vahati kriyarta. O Lord, soul of all souls, the conditioned soul, sees this universe as separate from you and thinks it is meant for his sense enjoyment. But this is only a creation of your deluding potency, Maya. As long as the living being clings to such an illusory separate interest, he does not give up the miserable world of action and reaction, birth and death, despite its utter meaninglessness. And I had a really interesting conversation with, because this verse, it's tricky, some of the things here to translate. Sanskrit is so, complex. And I had a talk with Lalita Madhava Prabhu in London, because he's like a Sanskrit scholar. And this word here, pritaktam, is very interesting. And it means, it's not really rendered into English, so you can't really render it, I think, so well. But it means like this conception of like a state of separateness, like being in this consciousness of separateness, and being in that condition, because this is actually like the whole point of our existence in this world, that we are conceiving of ourselves as separate. This is the main point, actually. And this is mentioned in Bhagavatam, this famous verse, Vayam Dvitiya Vinaveshatasya Ishara Apetasya Viparya Smriti Tan Tan Alayate. But this first line is saying, it's like pointing out what is the starting point here. That Dvitiya Vinive. Dvitiya means a second. So means like being absorbed in something second, in another thing. Like actually there's only one thing, and that's Krishna and his interest. That's the only thing, you know. So but in this condition of Dvitiya Binivesh, to be absorbed in the conception of being separate or perceiving something separate, something else, that's where the trouble all starts, you know. Then from that, by fear, that arises from that. And Vayam Dviti Biniveshata Ishad Apetasya Viparya Yosmriti. Then we forget the Lord and we enter this topsy-turvy, you know, condition where we see everything upside down and inside out, you know, exactly the opposite of what it actually is. So it all starts from this, from this conception of separateness, of separate interest, of being a separate entity. It all begins from that point. Where Srila Sridhar Maharshi, discussing that verse, he expresses very nicely, like lack of guardian consciousness. That's the root of the problem. Lack, like thinking that we need to make our own way, we need to act independently. But actually, you know, our only interest is in, you know, we have one guardian, and you know, our interest is included in his interest. Actually, there's no need for a separate interest. You know, by our giving our attention to that you know, guardian interest, he will care for us. We are included within his interest. I'm not explaining it so clearly, but expressing something.
No, that makes sense.
Okay. It's a very, very interesting point.
It is.
I have some notes here from my talk with Alita Madhav on this verse. I don't know if I can read them. This is the problem. I get excited about things. My handwriting is so bad, you know. Later I can't read it.
Well, guardian would mean guru, right?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Guru and Gauranga, right? I mean, both. In our, you know, yes, you know, here and now, then our guru is that person. Yes, of course. I mean, will always be. But they're all part of the same, you know, Guru and Krishna Mahaprabhu. Yes, I mean, you know, when we say Lord, that's also can be a general thing, right? That, you know, when Krishna says Sarvadharmam Prityaja Mame, surrender to me, doesn't actually mean me, right? You know, but, you know, my potency, you know, my, you know.
I guess the difficulty can be when, you know, for a disciple, when Guru departs, that's when it can become difficult to maintain one's guardian consciousness. So other Vaishnavas, other you know, people can, but then that becomes probably where the difficulty in ego, etc.
Well, it will be different for different practitioners, I think, you know, depending on one's level of development. You know, I mean, some, of course, the general thing is that you will have some living guardian, right? That there's some other superior Vaishnava who you can take shelter of. That is the ideal, and that's the most recommended. But for some persons, they may not be able to find that, or they may have had such a relationship with their Guru personally, that they're not able to, to find anyone who can really satisfy that inner, that inner necessity.
Internal
Yeah, then
necessity.
it will become, that dependency will be on Guru. Guru is not dead, right? So the connection will be purely spiritual, to live in that consciousness that, as we saw with Srila Gurudev, right? That's how he was always living. He was always living in consciousness of his Guru Maharaj. And he was always, that was everything that he was about, it was extraordinary, how much he was that, how much he was living in that consciousness 24 hours a day of his Guru Maharaj, and pleasing his Guru Maharaj, and being under the shelter of his Guru Maharaj. He like embodied that, So, not that we can, think we are Gurudev and imitate him, but giving us some example, right? So, I think it will be different. But one way or another, we want to live in that consciousness, we always want to live in the relativity of Guru. We don't want to live in the relativity of our own, separate world, independent existence. So we always want to live in the consciousness and the relativity of a guardian, And the guardian may be one person, it may be many persons, but we need to be in that. That is healthy for a healthy practitioner. That is necessary. Whether it's a person living and immediately, or someone who is departed, and on the level of consciousness, we're always taking shelter of them. Just if I'm speaking personally, for me, I really feel the only person I can really take shelter of in a substantial way is our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj. And so I'm always living in that consciousness of praying to Gurudev, feeling his presence in my life, trying to do everything for him. But at the same time, I also feel, I find wealth, and I find examples and advice in other Vaishnavas. I feel the presence of Gurudev and other Vaishnavas. So I'm also getting some nourishment there, But most substantially, I'm trying to live in consciousness of Srila Gurudev as being a part of my life, and a very, and I feel that to be the case. So it will be individual, for everyone. Does that ring true for you? You want to add anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at my notes here, and this is another version of translation I got from Alita Madhava. That as long as the jiva sees this world as separate, in this consciousness of being a separate entity, from you, then they will continue to revolve within this world of samsara. One will be unable to give it up. So that is the root, that conception of separateness and separate interest, independence. Okay, the next verse from Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Tan nityatvam tada bhave atmano vanshitattvad. The unsurrendered soul is perpetually deceived. Thus, the state of surrender is eternal. Prapyapi durlabhatanam manushyam vibhudepshitam. Yer ashito na govindas ter atma vanchitaschinam. A birth in the human species is so valuable that it is aspired for by the demigods. Those who, despite having taken such a birth, do not take shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda, they deceive themselves perpetually. Prapanna-jivanamrtam, the utter futility of life without surrender. Ashitin chaturashchaiva laksham tanjiva jatishu ramyadbi purushai prapya manusham janma paryayat tad apyafala tamyatam tesham atma vimaninam vadakana manashritya govinda charanadvayam. After wandering throughout 8,400,000 species, the soul eventually takes a human birth. But that human birth is rendered worthless by those miserable fellows who are so proud of their bodies that they refuse to take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. So, these two verses in similar vein. And, the scriptures are like knocking us on the head, Don't waste your time. Take advantage, What is the real purpose of this human life, And another verse in Bhagavatam, Srila Gurudev would quote this expression, Sa Atmaha, that one who doesn't take advantage of this, it is as if they've committed suicide. This is the whole purpose of having, this developed, this level of consciousness. So to throw that chance away, it is suicide. So wake up. Wake up, take advantage. I'm just saying that it's not just that, there's some positive reason for this heaviness, not just for the sake of, being, dark about things.
Yeah.
With that positive end in mind, wake up, take advantage. Sarvadameshvapi mukti dachitvam. Even the lowest of men are liberated by surrender. Sarvachara vivarjita shatadiyo ratya jagadvanshaka dambahang kritipana paishuna para papantyaja nishtara ye chanye danadada putta nirata sarvadamastepihi Sri Govinda padada vinda sharana mukta bhavanti dvija. From the Narsimha Purana. O twice-born, persons who are devoid of all virtuous practices, who are outcast, rogues, deceitful, audacious, egotistic, addicted to intoxicants, hotbeds of sin, malicious, cruel-natured, grossly infatuated with son, wife, wealth, etc., even such extremely fallen persons are liberated by surrendering unto the lotus feet of Sri Govinda. So very nice points are here. That this is the potency of surrender. It doesn't matter how degraded you are. It doesn't matter how low you've gone. Surrender, Sharanagati is so potent, so powerful. It can purify and uplift even those persons. And then, so this, this has some really important implications for ourselves as practitioners. One, on a personal level, that whatever, rubbish we're dealing with in ourselves, there's hope. It's okay. Don't be despondent. The Lord's mercy is so powerful. And then on another level, we have to apply this in terms of how we see other practitioners. It's so important. And it's so easy to forget. I mean, the list here is very heavy. Hotbed. This is, this is Sadhguru Maharaj's hotbeds of sin. I don't know exactly what the Sanskrit says. But we get the picture. This is really heavy. So no matter what we're seeing in others, we cannot judge them on the basis of that. If we do, It's actually it means we have a lack of faith in what this actually is, you know, and how powerful it is. What is the potency? So we have to have that vision that whoever has come to this, you know, now anything is possible. You know, now they've come to the feet of Guru and Garanga. Then there's something else now, you know. So what we'll see on the you know, this is all what we're seeing in them. It's just something acquired. It's something that's been acquired throughout so many lifetimes. Acquired prejudice, acquired misconception, but now they've come in connection with this most, you know, the ultimate purifying force, and they must be purified eventually. So it's very important that we remember this in our observation and in our dealings with other practitioners. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. Because, you know, we don't know what's going on inside. We don't know how the Lord is dealing with them. We're not privy to that, you know, inner, you know, goings on. So if we are fixed, you know, we're judgmental of what we see on the cover, we will suffer as a result. So we have to have, you know, very magnanimous and very broad vision. And we saw with Srila Gurudev, like, how much he tolerated. I mean, he, you know, all kinds of people, you know, would come to him, all kinds of problems, and Srila Gurudev overlooked so much. The only thing that he would not overlook is Vaishnava aparad. That is the only real crime in Vaishnavism, to be critical of the Vaishnavas, to be offensive. So we may be critical of someone who has some material fault, but we're actually the ones who are in danger. We're actually the criminals.
So is that like sort of judge not, you know, that is it close to that? I mean, not saying it's the same sort of thing, but
sure, yeah.
You know, it's close to that.
It's kind of, I mean, I've heard it also said that it's difficult to actually cause Vaishnava aparad, and there would be different levels. But, you know, there's personality conflicts, there's, you know, ego, even that's actually not Vaishnava aparad, because it's under, it's not actually a conscious state of mind, you know. When you're acting with ego, you're acting with the lesser. But to be...
lesser awareness.
Yeah, but to be really offensive is to be intention. It's almost like, you know, premeditated murder or something, you know.
Knowingly.
It's knowingly, in, you know, spitefully, or, you know, vindictively, or, you know, all these really, heavy things. That's, but, you know, I'd rather be cautious about, you know, causing Vaishnava aparad through ego and through, you know, simple criticism and that, because I think, you know, if you were in a point where you were wanting to, you know, vilify or to, you know, plan a kind of a more strategic, you know, attitude against somebody, I don't see, you know, you'd have to go, you know, right down to almost, you know, see yourself and rectify it or something. If you're at that point, it'd be almost the point of, you know, no return.
Yeah, definitely. It will depend upon the degree of our own, you know, inner intention. But even just in a light way, criticizing, you know, that is some level.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I'm saying, like, it's better to be more careful
about
that than
absolutely.
even contemplate a further depth.
Yeah. Why do you think that was so important in Gurudev's mind?
Because that's the only thing which can substantially hamper our progress. Mahaprabhu, he gives the example of, and this is an Indian example, It's referred to sometimes as the mad elephant offense. That if you have a garden, right? We have the Bhakti Lata beach, right? The seed of we've received the seed of devotion, and that creeper is growing. And so the offense, Vaishnava aparad, to have an offensive mentality towards a Vaishnava, that is compared to a mad elephant that will come into your garden and just uproot. It can totally destroy. If it goes that far, of course. If, like Prabhu's describing, it's something very serious and deep intent. And then it can totally uproot and destroy. Like ordinary sin, it's not going to help us. And it will sinful activity. It will increase the covers around us.
Yeah.
But Vaishnava aparad, it actually is connected with that internal thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that helps. It's
That actually affects our soul, Vaishnava. Whereas sinful activity, that's like on the cover of things. That's increasing our karmic debt. And so, of course, that's not helping us. And that's increasing our identification with the worldly plane. But at the same time, that can easily be removed, by the grace of Guru and the Lord. But and Gurudev has pointed out even the consciousness, because it's mentioned in Kali Yuga that sin committed in the mind doesn't count in Kali Yuga. It's like some special dispensation. In previous ages, you were accountable for that, even your thoughts. A little frightening, isn't it? So in Kali Yuga, because our minds are so uncontrolled, we're excused from that. But Gurudev said Vaishnava aparad is different, because that's connected with the nirgun plane, with the soul plane. So that even to mentally, have some bad consciousness, towards a Vaishnava, then that will be detrimental. And we have to be careful, because of course if it will be more serious if it's a very great Vaishnava, but even a lower level Vaishnava, even junior Vaishnava, they have something real in their heart.
And then we don't really know who's a Vaishnava.
And that's another point Gurudev would make often. We don't know who's a sadhu. So we have to be very careful. And so this was, the reason really why Gurudev emphasized so much humility, tolerance, and respect, right? The third verse of Shikshashram, because that will protect us. If we are interacting with everyone like that, then we're safeguarding ourselves.
It's interesting, It's because it's like spiritual progress. It's something that things that would harm a person's coming into that relationship, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting. It's something you could think about, I think.
Yeah.
Sure, a lot.
I love those 3 precepts that Gurudev gives us, humility, tolerance, and giving honour to others. It's that's that fundamental respect for everybody, because we don't know who's a Vaishnava.
Yeah.
And of course, and then all the Vaishnavas as well.
Yeah.
Just approaching life like that.
You want to add anything else, Alexander?
No. It's a big topic.
It is a big, it's a very
good,
big topic,
It's a good one.
It's really interesting.
It's good to cover it regularly.
It is,
It's like a hankara, It's kind of got that. It's just innately difficult, sort of, because they're just difficult in their nature, So
well, if we keep this spiritual vision, of course we have our own way of seeing people, right? According to our acquired material, prejudice and misconception, we have a particular, there's particular kinds of people that we like, or maybe we're more sattva gun or rajagun or tamagun. we have our own inclinations going on, right? But if we try to, and that should be in the background, you know, and we will try to keep at the forefront, you know, Shastra Chakshu, you know, what is Scripture telling us about how we should see this person, you know. We may have a great attachment to Sattva Gun, to the mode of goodness, but then we can go to judge practitioners who are more, let's say, more Tamagun. You know, what about someone who's coming from a background of drug addiction and struggling with like some basic things? Then we may judge them from where we're coming from. But actually, they may have something more substantial within them. They may have more inclination toward the Nirgun plane than us. Because Sattva Gun is still Gun. It's still within the Sagun plane. So we have to keep these kind of prejudices that we have in the background and try to see everyone with more spiritual vision.
Because you're damaging yourself. So
yeah, we damage ourselves. Yeah.
You know, pull the log out of your own eye before you start picking splinters out of other people's.
Sure, that's another point. That's another point.
You know,
Srila Saraswati Thakur has made, that we should be so busy, you know, dealing with our own issues. You know, there's one expression where he says, "I'm so honeycombed with so many defects of my own. You know, I don't have time, you know, to go to look at what everyone else, you know." And that's the thing, actually, you know, if we're actually like practicing ourselves and we're actually like on the battlefield, the internal battlefield ourselves, that keeps us very occupied, you know. If we're actually like living a real spiritual life, then it becomes meaningless to sit and to analyze, you know, such and such about such and such person, you know. So it's like a symptom of not really being absorbed ourselves in spiritual. You know, we can waste our time discussing what this person has done, what that person has done, but we're missing out on the opportunity we have to go deeper ourselves and actually be busy in real spiritual cultivation. There's so much juice there, you know. We don't need to look for juice in, you know, in what others are doing, you know.
In fact, it would change the dynamic if you were to be more understanding of yourself, and even, you know, I remember Srila Govinda Maharaj would always start a lecture by depreciating himself, you know, to the nth degree, you know, regularly, but it was his way of, I guess, you know, it was, for him it was heartfelt expression, but it also, it seemed to me that it created an environment where people felt
like it's okay to not
okay to be themselves, but also it kind of drawed the grace, you know, of you know, the divine plane down as well. You know, it's always easy if you say, oh, you know, you talk about yourself in that way, that people then go, oh yeah, I, you know, and myself as well, and then you kind of, I guess, end up in a therapy session or something. But you know, but it's better than kind of maybe the opposite of like going, oh, you know, looking at other people's faults, and then everyone's like gossiping and talking about you know.
Yeah, Srila Gurudev had that expression, my religion is finding fault with myself. And he also said, my religion is to glorify others. So this is really like the mode that we want to be in, like directing that fault-finding tendency within, and only seeking goodness from without. You know, that will be a real healthy and progressive spiritual life.
He was also pragmatic, because, I mean, once he gave me instruction, he said, you know, you don't need to be friends with everyone. You know, you can, like you're saying, you know, you can find your group. You know, but you know, if you can't necessarily be friends with others, then you just leave them and don't, you know, don't engage or don't do that. Don't associate them. it's sort of like, be real as well.
Yeah.
Be practical. Understand where your limits are.
Yeah.
And work within your comfort zone to some degree.
Right.
And not, don't stay there. But
That's a very nice point. We don't have to be like artificial, like force something, And also, often it's not it may not be safe actually for us. Like there may be a practitioner who we can recognize has something very valuable, but at the same time they have some particular habits that it won't be good for us, to relate too closely with them. Their example may not be good for us. Their association in a direct sense may not be good for us. But with some distance, we can pay our dandavat to them. We can appreciate them. And also sometimes we may, as you're referring to, there may be Vaishnavas who we just can't get along with. So it's good for us. Find the point of distance where we can maintain good respect. But at all costs, we want to be in a position where we're able to appreciate all the practitioners, all the Vaishnavas. So it's just as Srila Saraswati Thakur expressed, religion is proper adjustments. This is so crucial, this point, adjustment, So we just have to find that point of adjustment where we can have that vision and healthy, harmonious relationship with everyone.
See, there's some beautiful definitions of religion. Proper adjustment, finding fault with oneself.
Nice.
What was the other one?
Glorifying others.
Glorifying others.
Yeah.
See, that's what I mean.
I'll sign up for that religion.
Yeah. We are signed up for that.
Yeah, I won't argue with that.
Sorry to tie in a previous conversation.
No, that's cool.
But it helps to get rid of the ego, doesn't it? It's a good way, of going in. You're not beating yourself up. That's not the idea. Sort of that where you're being harsh towards yourself, or ahimsa. It's like it's more or less cutting down the ahamkar, which is not really you anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about having real clarity, really.
Then the clarity
there should be a progressive and optimistic spirit at the same time. It's just like kind of seeing what we really are and what we're really dealing with, like in the mood of a student, you could say. Like actually having, before you get anywhere, you first need to have some clarity about where you are right now. So it's just like honest self-assessment. And another thing is that if we are really appreciating like what it is that we are approaching, and Prabhu also referred to this in in Gurudev's mood, if we really appreciate what it is we're approaching, then automatically we feel ourselves to be very small. It's a natural expression of being in the relativity of greatness. Srila Sridhar Maharaj has given that definition of humility. That which is the outcome of proximity with greatness. So the more that we are approaching, it's like if you're standing in front of a mountain, right? What do you feel? You suddenly feel very small. But it's actually a wonderful thing. It's nothing to be afraid of.
You feel good.
It's a wonderful, happy thing.
It's inspiring.
Yeah. I'm really small and insignificant, but that's okay. I'm connected with something so wonderful. So that's another point about humility. And also, it's not something to be imitated. We don't want anything to be artificial in our spiritual practice. We don't want to artificially, sing the songs of Prapanna-jivanamrtam and cry. We want to have some real and healthy, natural development of these feelings within us. So at least, a starting point is like to hear these expressions from the higher Vaishnavas, like Srila Gurudev, that's a starting point. I don't have it myself, but I'm in so much awe, like that real feeling that he has. I worship that humility. What time is it now? Oh, it's after 10. Well, we should stop. Any last comments? Okay. Jai Sri Sri Prapanna-jivanamrtam. Jai. Shri Gurudev ki Jai. Param Gurudev ki